Foreign vlogger makes Portland first stop on the U.S. tour. Immediately regrets it. What's this look like? Let's get into it. Here we go.
I have just landed in the United States after deciding to leave the UK and travel around this country for the next few months. If you don't know me, my name is Will, and I'm about to explain to you what's happened in the first 48 hours since we've got here. We decided to start our US tour in the city of Portland, Oregon, but we couldn't have made a bigger mistake if we tried. This city is far from safe. Crime and homelessness dominates this area, and this is something we've experienced firsthand since being here. On our second night, we were woken up to sirens, shouting, and 3 loud gunshots. This was just the cherry on the cake. It's almost impossible to feel safe here, and I am by no means incapable of defending myself, but sometimes it's just best to get out of a situation while you can. We're already making arrangements to leave this city and find somewhere a lot more secure. Remember, we're going to be traveling the entire country, and if there's any other places like this that we need to know about, then please let us know. We don't want this first 48 hours here to set a bad example of the US. Any advice you can give us would be great, and I will update you soon.
And some of my initial thoughts there was, is this staged? Is this real? Who steps off in Portland? You know, folks think, okay, you know what? There's a lot of controversy going on in Portland, but it can't be that bad, can it? Can it? Yeah, it can. Depending on what part you stay in Portland. I was down in Portland 4 weekends ago, something like that. And you got to pick. I picked the downtown financial district because it's basically emptied out. And there are certain areas where you don't have a lot of homelessness going on. You get slightly outside of that, it is a war zone. It is just game on. And like he said, it's not safe. No, it's not safe. So here's the advice I would say, and this is the advice I would tell anybody thinking about going to Portland. Let's just get through the kind of initial what happened here. Will Bailey, who does some fitness stuff as well. He's a pretty good sized guy. He's a pretty strong looking guy. He's a young guy. No reason to be afraid. Who narrated his trip on TikTok, stated that they instantly regretted their visit after experiencing gunshots, homelessness, and rampant crime. Does that sound about right? 100%. Especially, it really depends on what area they were. I couldn't really tell. We decided to start our U.S. tour in the city of Portland, Oregon, but we couldn't have made a bigger mistake if we tried. This city is far from safe. No, you know what, Sherlock. No kidding. Shenanigans for days. We've podcasted that here forever. But if you're coming from out of the country, if you're coming from the United Kingdom like this guy is, and you're not following the local news stories. If I go to the UK, I mean, I've got a couple of broad stories in mind that I know will be, part of the experience. But the boots on the ground, if I haven't, paid attention to what's going on by somebody that's local there, you could step in this in a heartbeat, right? Crime and homelessness dominate this area, and this is something we've experienced firsthand since being here. All righty then. Yeah, I mean, that's not good. He woke up to the sounds of 3 gunshots, sirens, and shouting in the middle of the night. Well, that's kind of what happens here in Seattle. You got a bunch of nut jobs running around. You got criminal activity going on. And that's just what happens. It's not real safe. It's not secure. You don't want to stay in those areas, but yeah, you stuck it out for a full night. It's almost impossible to feel safe here, Bailey continued. Now, I am by no means incapable of defending myself. That's why I brought up the fact he's a pretty good-sized guy. The article goes on to talk about, the customs enforcement, the lack of enforcement at the ICE building. It's just, Portland has made an absolute mockery of itself. Just an absolute mockery of itself. What's so crazy is people in Portland who don't really, they don't understand the full implications of when you allow crime, homelessness, drugs to just overrun your city. Businesses tend to move out, and then you've got budget problems, and you can't bring anybody back in because nobody wants to be there. But all the folks that are in leadership in Portland, including Portland Police Bureau, they're so influenced by the far left. They're so afraid of upsetting the far left that they'll do damn near anything, including, videos of walking around. So, maybe we should have Tina Kotex and her wife, husband, whatever that other chick is, I don't even know. Don't even care. Maybe we should have them walk around this fine young couple in the middle of the day and try and tell them, hey, things are great here. Things are fine. This dude got through one evening, right? At least 195 protesters have been arrested outside the ICE facility because everything's going just great. During a No Kings protest on Saturday, 3 people were arrested. I mean, you've just got a ton of crazy stuff going on. How about this one? Portland targets Trump's fascist law enforcement as anti-ICE rioters swarm the city. What are you doing? You've got law enforcement refusing to work with other law enforcement because you are part of the far left ideology that law enforcement in general is fascist, and you're anti-fascist, you're Antifa, and you're dressing up in costumes. You're doing Operation Inflation, which is handing out a bunch of costumes to make it look like that your grab ass playing that you're doing, the shenanigans you're doing are just so tee-hee and childlike that why would Trump want to send in the feds? Well, because in between when you're playing grab ass with your fellow costume people, you're doing some pretty violent action towards the ICE building. And we see it. We see all the videos of what you're doing. It's not like you're hiding anything. The only thing you're hiding is from people who don't watch the news. You are literally lying to them by walking hand in hand around the city and saying, everything's great here, nothing to see here, it's fine. And that is where people from the UK get this ideology, or get this idea, Portland's fine, mayor said so. Portland's fine, governor said so. Oh, okay, it must be good. Hey, why is there gunshots happening and people yelling at one another outside of our hotel complex? I don't get it. This place isn't safe. So they must have had multiple interactions. And in the wrong place in Portland, not hard to do. Not hard to do. They just happened to pick a reservation at a hotel where they're in one of those spots where they're like full on. Maybe it's like Southeast Portland. Oh, that'd be exciting, wouldn't it? And here's the dude. So 452,000 followers. So here's some of the additional background that I would tell somebody looking at going to Portland, Oregon, without much knowledge of what's going on there. Portland has the second highest property crimes rate in the nation after Memphis. It's October 22nd. It's super recent, right? Second highest property crimes rates in nation after Memphis. I mean, that right there tells you everything you need to know. Hey, maybe there's some shenanigans going on in Portland. Aside from the shooting, you got people breaking and entering. You got people that know that the judicial system in Portland, in Oregon, isn't really going to hold them accountable for their actions. So if you want to be a whacked out drug addict, you can steal from the community all day long. And what's going to happen to you? Not much. Not much. That's why the world's your oyster and crime basically goes unabated. And Portland, Oregon has the second highest property crimes after Memphis, Tennessee. And let's see. Mayor of Memphis said, hey, Trump, we need some help. Can you bring in your National Guard to Memphis? And they have. Criminal activity has dropped, right? Come to find out, when you send dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of National Guard into an area, tends to bring the temperature down, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Just a scooch. This was a wild story. Katie Davis Court. She's the one that got jabbed in the eye with the butt end of a metal flagpole. City of Portland, Oregon has the nation's highest property crime. Analysis comes as President Trump has vowed to deploy National Guard troops to libtard-run cities. Every American deserves to live in a community where they're not afraid of being mugged, murdered, robbed, raped, assaulted, or shot. That's true, isn't it? That's true. So second highest in property crimes. That's perfect. That's excellent. How about, now I'm going to bring in, since I'm a real estate guy, I'm going to go to some of the real estate stats where Portland is absolutely dead last. Because come to find out, when you have shootings, when you have criminal activity, things like that, they tend to impact an already decimated downtown commercial core that got totally emptied out during the pandemic from that whole, hey, we're going to work from home forever. And then we've got this return to work, return to the office, but nobody in Portland is returning to the office because they don't want to be in downtown. When I walked around in downtown Portland, I walked around late at one night because I was trying to get a snack, and I went to a 24-hour open mini mart called Pete's on 4th, and it was an absolute trip. And I've talked about this multiple times. It's basically a mini mart that's open in downtown. It's the only one that I could see on the map, and it supports drug addicts. So if you're coming in from the UK, you've had a shooting the night before, you go into a mini mart and you got just a bunch of zombies, literally zombies, walking around who don't even recognize that you're there. Like they have that 1,000-yard stare, but they're just looking through you. And you're like, I know that they know I'm here, but they're not recognizing I'm here. This is weird. When you have multiple people who are in that state and it's the middle of the night, state of consciousness, and you're like, ugh. Yeah, it would freak if you came from the UK and you're not used to this kind of thing. A lot of people who come to the Pacific Northwest, they've never seen an open-air drug market or drugs done publicly like we have. We take it for granted. So that's one thing I'd say is, hey, if you're not comfortable with open-air drug market, then you know what? Maybe avoid the big blue liberal cities in maybe the downtown. Just be careful of where you stay. So Metro Portland office vacancy rate hits record 26.6% in third quarter. Some of that has to do with really high tax rates for businesses because you've got Democrats, you've got liberals, you've got progressives that run the city, and they don't give a crap about business. That's why your street conditions are the way they are. That's why you've allowed the homeless to just basically take over the city, and you're not really doing much about it. You heard this guy from the UK mention homelessness. Crime. He experienced it firsthand, right? He got some footage. Hey, what's going outside the window? What's going on out there? Just a shooting. Just a minor shooting. Yeah, some gang activity. Somebody just took out the 9mm and pop, pop, pop. As you do. Portland, middle of the night. As you do. It's no big deal. It's all good. I mean, the mayor and the governor's walking around with her girlfriend, wife, partner, whatever. And they said it's fine. So, yeah, those gunshots, it's probably just a muffler backfire, right? Crazy stuff. So, you got that going on. Portland's office vacancy climbs to 35% in quarter one. It's getting worse. It is getting worse in Portland. And that's because businesses tend to read these stories as well. This kind of influence from overseas. Got these influencers. They're like, well, if that guy's experiencing that, then it must be true. It must be true. Optics, whatever you want to say, the optics of this story are horrible. They are horrible. And they go wildly against the narrative, which is, we're walking hand in hand, everything's fine. That's the narrative they want you to believe. Well, who are you going to believe? A politician that is so embedded with the ideology that brought the city to its knees that they're not willing to look around and go, hey, you know what? Maybe things aren't perfect here. Maybe there's some room for improvement, right? Now, what we always say, office vacancy climbs to 35% in quarter one. How about this one? And this is one that I've done a full podcast. I've done a full podcast on probably all of these, haven't I? Probably. Oregon has a higher rate of mental illness than any other state, report says. And you know what? Mental illness is no joke. I mean, you lose your mind, just bloop, just gone. Commit suicide, something like that. Horrible, terrible, terrible stuff. But the fact that Oregon has a higher mental illness than any other state, you're kind of left with, okay, so what is going on in Oregon? You can only blame so much of this on the mental health care program, on healthcare in general. You can only blame so much on that because everybody in the health industry, especially the mental health industry, always says that mental issues are due to some kind of childhood trauma. Well, what's going on in Oregon in general that it is making it by far and away a much more mentally ill environment than every other state in the United States. What is going on to create that situation? Here's that bar graph that we're talking about. 2025, Oregon is up at 30% of adults have mental illness, whereas the national average is 23, a 7-point pop. And it's been increasing. You see down 2021, we're at 22, up to 24, up to 27, stabilized at 27 for a couple of years. Boom, up another 3%. Kind of explains a lot, doesn't it? How about all those yahoos running around in Portland with costumes on, Operation Inflation? What about that? I mean, you've literally got to be a little bit crazy to think that that's a good idea, that spending your time interfering with law enforcement who is making your community better is a bad thing. You know what I mean? You're just left with, I'm sorry, what? You're protesting against ICE? That is literally mental. It's mental. The no kings thing is literally mental. Mental. There's no kings. There never was a king. I mean, there was a king back in the day, but I thought we squared that away with, that whole Revolutionary War thing. I mean, come on, right? I mean, we revolted. There's no king. And if there was a king, would the king just allow people to have millions and millions out in the streets protesting? Nah, they squashed that stuff. So fortunately, the protests are really working because there's still no kings. There's still no secret police. There's no thrones. There's no crowns. One of the memes I saw was just a really overweight, blue-haired gal, with the septum ring, and they were saying, no biking, no hiking. Just a bunch of stuff like that. And it was making fun of her. She had a large calorie surplus. So you got a lot of that going on at these events. And these people are already, 1 out of 3 are mental. How about the mental makeup of those that are at the ICE facility in Portland, Oregon? I'd say 80% of those folks have some type of legit mental issue. Whether it's childhood trauma, I don't know. The young ladies that are there, daddy issues, maybe some assault in their history. I don't know. The guys that are there are just, you're like, you people are not, you're not mentally stable. And that's why you're here. And a lot of folks in Portland, I was walking along after I went to my mini mart and I got some snacks. And because it's middle of the night, and that's what you do. You walk around a city you don't know, and let's just see what happens here. This should be fine. I walked out of the mini mart, and there was a whole bunch of people. I walked out, and I looked off to my left, and there was a whole bunch of people kind of sitting there, and they were clearly comfortable doing what they're doing, which is a bunch of drugs. They're doing maybe some meth, doing a little fetty, possibly some heroin. Who couldn't tell? Maybe some cocaine. You don't really know, but Portland's not really a coke city, right? It's more of a meth. It's more of a fentanyl. It's more of a heroin. Keep Portland weird, right? It's more of that. So they were doing that just as I walk out the door. And then I hang a righty because my hotel is that way. It's to I think it was west at that point. And I walked right into this confrontation. This middle of the night, out on the street. It's dark, of security guard being absolutely screamed at by this black dude who was talking about 400 years of oppression and don't touch me. Don't touch me. And see, these security guards had this interaction with clearly a homeless dude who was mentally out of his absolute gourd. And that's who makes up basically the cities of Portland in the middle of the night, along with a bunch of drug addicts, and then along with a bunch of security. You've got so few cops in Portland that businesses and entire downtown core areas have hired private security forces because things are so unstable, things are so untenable. And that's where you get a situation. If you're not in one of those areas, you might wake up in the middle of the night to some gunshots. You might wake up in the middle of the night to some people screaming at each other. I literally walked past security guards saying, need you to walk away, or something like that. And the guy was screaming about 400 years of oppression. And you're like, we're doing what now? What are you talking about? Oh, wait a minute. You're a homeless person. You were whacked out of your skull. At least you're not over there doing the drugs currently with those people. But given the chance, I think he walks around the block, comes back, and does just that. So what I would say to out-of-towners, do your homework. Just read a few stories. And make sure you're subscribed to News for Reasonable People, because we cover this all day long. Hit that notification bell. Share with friends and family. Share with friends and family of influencers coming from the United Kingdom who need a little bit of a heads up. Hey, maybe don't make the Pacific Northwest your first stop in the U.S. if you haven't been here before. Maybe go to Texas first. Maybe go to Oklahoma first. Maybe go to Florida first. Go to Miami. Get some sunshine. What could go wrong, right? Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next episode. Bye for now.